Hi, I'm Dan. I also had a Jaiku account, so that makes three of us. I'm a person on the internet who most recently has been spending time accidentally making government technology better. I'm going to try and get through to the break as quickly as possible for you, and if I do a great job, then maybe some of you will be a bit excited as well. And I'm going to do that lightning talk thing where I'm going to try and get through 65 slides in 900 seconds, and I've already used 33. Right. I want to run a heist to steal and bring back something from our fully automated luxury gay space communism future and give it to everyone, something that might help improve social networks. And you're thinking, Dan, what's the deal? You better nail the landing on this. So I'm going to start here. People are terrible. Well, no, wait, I can be more accurate. People on the internet are terrible, or people are terrible on the internet. Here's one of the ways that they are terrible on the internet, which is that some of them are sometimes sea lions. This is an excerpt from the classic sea lioning Wondermark cartoon from 2014, and it names that famous troll behavior of when you have an opinion about something, and then someone turns up in the manner of a sea lion and tries to argue with you by constantly pretending to politely ask you to justify your claims, which you don't have to do at all because they are a random stranger and you want them to go away. People are also terrible on the internet in this way as well, which is practically poetry, and I'm going to read it out loud. And I think that will also be better in my English accent. So this is Coolie Bravo Avocado emoji saying, Twitter, the only place where well-articulated sentences still get misinterpreted. You can say, I like pancakes, and somebody will say, so you hate waffles? No, bitch. That's a whole new sentence. WTF is you talking about? And we know this happens because people are trolls, they are rude, but sometimes this is excusable because the context of the speech that they're replying to has collapsed. And if you had context collapse on your bingo card, then you win for this one. What do I mean by that? Well, I think it might be helpful to incorporate coding of intent, to have some sort of extra textual coding so that when we communicate on social networks, it's not just the pure text that's visible, not just the pure text that you're responding to, so that there's more nuance, so that you can even get across some sort of the emotional content. How can I make it easier for you to understand me, and how can I make it easier for me to be understood? Now, we know that the best way of dealing with a problem is by dealing with it with a joke, because that way, if anything goes wrong about it, you can say that that was totally supposed to be funny and it wasn't supposed to work. You are not allowed to do that if you're a fascist or a Nazi. No, that doesn't work. So over a year ago, I made some joke images for people to add to posts on Mastodon, which is the other social network. I made something like this. For example, that you could attach to your post to stop people from asking you why you hate waffles whenever you express your preference for pancakes. It just simply tells people to do not reply to tell me why a thing I like is bad. Here's one for when you're just making an observation and you don't want people to help you because you are just talking out loud on the internet and you never asked for any help. This is the one where you're just complaining about something and you don't want anyone to reply to your complaining about something. You probably get the idea with this one. You probably get a very, very specific idea with this one. And so on, and so on. Here's the one for Cory Doctorow. Here's the one if you're Jamie Zawinski and you're making blog posts about what you should do if you have a particular problem. And here's one if you are a woman. So I really wanted to find a way. I'm really interested in this concept of we have such a low limited bandwidth, such a low dimension way of communicating, and so many of these problems happen because we just lose all of that information just through pure text. And we don't really have good ways of dealing with it. This is someone talking about how using text markers like /s to indicate sarcasm and /j for meaning joking are just confusing. I mean, we could use these text markers like we used 30, 40 years ago when all we had were keyboards and Usenet. But it gets confusing because we don't know when one of these means being serious instead of joking. So how might we do any of this better? Well, here's a ludicrously abbreviated selection of references around the problem of how might we think about conveying rich meaning alongside speech, alongside just text speech. This, if you're familiar with the work of Ian M. Banks, these are his sketches of what the drones would look like from the culture universe. And here's what Banks would have to say about drones, and this is the part that I really like. For 1,000 years or more, culture drones had had aura fields, which colored according to their mood, their equivalent of facial expression and body language. But Jace, a drone in this case, was old, made long before aura fields were thought of, and had refused to be refitted to accommodate them. It preferred either to rely on its voice to express what it felt, or to remain inscrutable. So what might that look like? What might auras look like to convey intent and emotion in a completely fictional universe? Well, it might look like this. Or, in another book, in The Player of Games, it might look like this. This drone's aura field switched to a mixture of red and brown, humorous pleasure and displeasure, together a contrary signal close to a direct result. Ignore this machine, Gerger says to a young man. It likes to annoy people, which I interpret really that it's a drone that enjoys shitposting, which is a thing that I also enjoy. So red and brown are also one of my favorite colors. There have been other ways to do this as well. This is one of my favorite things, which is Microsoft Comic Chat. It was from 1996. It was a presentation layer on top of IRC, so you could use it as a regular IRC client. And it had a wheel for you to select your emotional intent that you could wrap around text that would be used to display your comic avatar. That would be animated and displayed in different ways according to the context, the emotional context that you imbued to your speech. It was brilliant, absolutely wonderful. You would get it if you got Internet Explorer 5. And then for some reason, they stopped it. There should be a Slack app for this. We use emoji as well. We use emoji in some ways to express the entire breadth of human experience, especially in ways that people are very embarrassed about. We also do this in video games. So this is the real, actual metaverse, which is Fortnite, which I see a lot because my son plays it all the time, and it's where he spends most of his money. But this is how, in Fortnite, you select your emotes for when you're playing, and you just want to show how you're feeling. Users are wonderful. Games really love using pie menus. So what am I talking about here? Is this all some sort of cry for multimodal alt text for context? Some sort of markup for how am I feeling when I'm talking about this thing, and how do I want you to understand how I'm feeling? Well, I got together with Florian, who is my design partner, who is somewhere in this room, hiding at the back. That's not where designers are supposed to be. We're supposed to be right next to each other and working together. So I started working with Florian on turning those not-a-joke images into really proper not-a-joke images. And then I'm going to show you some of the reference that we worked through, some of the imagery. Florian's really good. I occasionally got to include stuff that I like, this is Ron Cobb's semiotic standard, the visual language that he put together for the film Alien. We both agree that the New York subway system diagram is brilliant. And there's some more, and some more, and some more. Florian enjoyed making icons and still does. We figured out how we might display these cards, these ways, these URL addressable ways of showing intent on the web. We translated them into French and German, and we made stickers out of them, which you can get from me and you can get online. And we even made positive themed ones, because it's not nice to always be negative. One's about how viewing source was one of the things that changed the entire world, and about how the best days of the internet are ahead of us, and how we can take back the internet together. So we made all of those, and one of the questions is, did they actually work in any way whatsoever, or were they still just a joke? Well, here's Erica Joy. She has a few followers on most social networks, probably around 30,000 or more on each one. And this is her talking about how she likes binging romantasy books. And then she used the "do not tell me why the thing I like is bad" card, which is very nice because I didn't tell her to use that. And they work. I mean, the people who have used these have gotten less shitty replies, I think, than they would have if they did not use them. The one type of reply that they did get was people taking issue with the fact that they used these in the first place, and they're like, why do you need cards like this? If you're posting something on the internet, you should expect replies. Why are you posting anyway? Erica also, oh, that's her doing it again. Mike Masnick used them. He also is followed by some people. And he used the one, do not comment on my observation, to hopefully stave off people when he had opinion about the US government's attitude towards TikTok. And lastly, this is Erica using them as well, using the mansplaining one, I think preemptively using it on threads and basically saying that it should be built into threads. Now, this is the first set of 10, and out of those 10, the top 3 that were used were the do not attempt to help one, do not tell me why the thing I like is bad, and do not comment on my observation, which are not necessarily the ones that I thought might be the top 3, but both is depressing and also confirms any of the suspicions that I had about how people behave on the internet. So what I'm looking for, what I would really, really like is a way, a significantly better way, because these are just images. You take the URL, you stick it in your post, and then it gets populated, it gets a preview. You know, we like to provide alt text and everything like that. But I want a much better way of being able to show what I mean and how I feel when I say something, so that you are not a dick to me, or so that I get better replies and we understand each other better. And this is why I want us to run a heist and steal something back from our fully automated luxury gay space communism future, like those drone auras. So what can we build, and how can we build it that will give that richer context and help people be understood? How would we add that context, and how would we display it? Because we do have the bad, this is a reminder of some of the bad ways that we have for it now. We have tone tags that someone's pointed out, I showed you earlier, that are confusing. And they're really, they're really old. They're indecipherable. They're culturally specific, which is terrible for translation and internationalization. They are very low bandwidth. They don't convey much information. They basically are shorteners. They're compression for text, for other words. And, you know, it's not, things that are old don't necessarily have to be bad. I think we can do a lot better than this. Mastodon, for example. Mastodon has the concept of content warnings, which is just a text field. You can put whatever you want in there, and it's up to the behavior of the client. So the client can decide it will just display the content of the content warning field, and then you need to interact with that to be able to see what's behind it. In this case, I am just telling people that I am just ranting. We have things like emoji pickers, but emoji pickers, they are intertextual, so you have to use them inside the speech. They don't wrap around the entire speech act. Also, emoji pickers are super annoying because they are slow. You have to scroll through them. And if you're talking about expressing emotional intent and you actually want people to do it, it needs to be fluid and it needs to be easy, because it's like body language, because it's like tone, because it's like the prosody in your voice when you are talking to someone, when you're using that kind of rich communication method. Now, the ways that we might display it, this is brilliant. This is Endra's X-block labeler, which is just one of the ways that Blue Sky supports at least messing with content through a labeling system. This is another way, you know, video games have found ways to do this. This is from Sims 4. This is how you understand the emotional context and the mood of each of the Sims. And I showed this earlier as well. This is like video games that are the actual metaverse and not what Meta is trying to make. They've solved these problems. They know about them for a long time. They have, like, this works because my son has spent money buying things that go into this UI ring, right? And he uses them, and millions of other people use them, and it makes Epic a shit ton of money. Like, this is a way that people use, and they also have voice chat. They're not just using text chat. You might be thinking, well, we could just put an LLM in it. Someone probably has that idea. We could always use some AI. And this is from the developer documentation for 11 Labs, which is a text-to-speech startup building AI to shape the future of communication, ensuring content is understood by everyone everywhere, which is a pretty tall order, and I would argue isn't possible with the state-of-the-art LLMs. And so this from their developer docs, they say that the way for you to produce emotions with their state-of-the-art software is to use narrative context, which, for example, is to say, when you put your speech into it, you say, "Oh no," he said, in a scared way, and it would say that in a scared way, or that you would tag the text. It does point out, though, they do point out, though, that if you do tag the text, occasionally their text their audio generation will read out the tag as well, which is not so smart. So we should not put an LLM in it. Because I think one of the principles here is that if we are trying to show, if we're trying to convey more expression in speech acts in how we communicate, then I need to be in control. I do not want it, I need to have certainty that what's being displayed is my speech. If it is being translated, I need to have autonomy and I need to understand what is being translated and what is being produced and put out there for me. I am over time. We could do this. Ish, can we do this in Blue Sky right now? Can we do this in rich text, or could we use labels? Like, not really. Rich texts, you know, maybe you could extend facets, but that would work around individual words inside of the actual text post, I think. In theory, you're supposed to be able to attach labels to your own post. That needs to be supported by the application and the client. But while you can and might be able to create labels that get across or might be composable for emotional intent, here's what the developer docs say. They say, while it may be possible to expand the self-labeling vocabulary by adding more global label definitions, we caution against aggressive policing culture that can form around self-labeling, which is true, but I don't think is a reason to not try anyway. We could try doing this at the AtProto level, at the AtProto layer. So we can use labels there, we can use lexicons there. We could try and use labels at that level to allow composable emotional context, like the example from earlier, like when the drone displayed a mixture of red and brown to show humorous pleasure and displeasure together in the way that emoji can be composable as well. Again, the developer docs there say you can stick whatever you want, more or less. I'm going to be hit by people who understand the protocol much better than I do. But the value field for that label, to keep the protocol flexible and allow future development of ontologies, norms, and governance and structures, very little about the semantics, behavior, and known values of the string are specified here, which is basically saying, if you want to go and try and define an ontology and a schema for the entire realm of physical human experience and the emotions therein, then go straight ahead and then just try and go into that pit of snakes by yourself, which again isn't a reason not to try. Of course, you might do all of that, and then you still might accidentally create the torment nexus, because after you have done all of that, you might have accidentally provided a crap ton more contextual information that could be used to profile people. You are providing a crap ton more of information, you know, and you don't even know whether it's accurate or not. It's just the ability to provide more information. That can be used to feed the insatiable token prediction engines. I said that I would try and end on something inspirational. I would really like this to happen. I really think that we need ways to be more expressive. I really am excited about the way that AtProto and the Blue Sky Lexicon offer the possibility of that, and something that I would love to see. We should do this.
Thank you so much. Oh, wow. That's real hot. Thank you so much, Dan.